grappling was. And probably like a lot of you maybe growing up, I did a bit of this, did a bit of that, a bit of boxing, a bit of judo, all sorts of different stuff, but never really stuck at one thing. But I experienced grappling, back in 2004. And it was like a light bulb moment. It was, as you've all experienced, which is why you sat here, it was like I'd just been shown a magic trick. Do you know what I mean? I think it's because of the practical application. Do you know what I mean? How you do a technique, but then they counter that. That doesn't work. So you then go to this. And then that doesn't work. So you go to this. And you like change, And then as you learn more and you get more experienced, and you try on someone who doesn't know anything, and they're like, whoa, what is this? And then that goes back to the byproduct of it, the reason that you do it in the first place, which is a self-defense mechanism, a martial art. So a smaller, weaker person can defeat a bigger, stronger person, but through superior technique, superior knowledge. But because you're having fun when you're doing it and you're just enjoying it, you don't really think about that bit, do you? Do you know what I mean? You just come, you go through techniques, you enjoy it, have a great time, but then actually the reality of it is that you've learned a life-saving skill that could save your own life, save your friends, your families. And that's the reality. And that's the crossover to Royal Marine training. So like us in our role, what we do. So, worst case scenario, we end up in a situation where we actually have to use our body and our knowledge to get ourselves out of a situation or to detain somebody, an aggressor. We need that as a skill, just like, marksmanship, just like navigation. So once I got into a position in the Royal Marines where I was able to cause some effect, that's what I did. And I pushed it and I made sure the right people in the right places who could make decisions knew how effective this was. And if I couldn't verbalize it, I'd bring them down and show them what it was all about. So this is the first sort of heading really for you guys, is there's no such thing as a white belt. In jiu-jitsu, there's no such thing as a white belt. A lot of other martial arts, you say white belt, like beginner, but not jiu-jitsu, right? So when I started Royal Marine Jiu-Jitsu, I was a white belt. Yeah, so I was senior in Royal Marine years, I was a sergeant, but in Jiu-Jitsu years, I was junior, But I already, at that stage, I knew the effectiveness of what I was doing, what I was learning. And back then, like, to have the instruction of a black belt, it was just like, it was crazy. Do you know what I mean? You travel like a long way to get the instruction of a black belt, or even a purple belt or a brown belt, So for me in the military, it was quite difficult, because I go away on leave and I might sort of get somewhere and train. So regular training is really difficult. So my main aim was to get jiu-jitsu in all the commando units, get everyone training jiu-jitsu. Because what I was having to do was just get UFC DVDs, like stuff like that. There was Rampage Jackson and Forrest Griffin, Ultimate Fight Series. And we were out away on operations, and we were doing things, coming back on a bit of downtime, and we'd be in our tent and I'd have the laptop up, and we'd have Ultimate Fighter Series on, picking bits out, and right, let's get on the mats, let's go drill this stuff. And this is me as a white belt, do you know what I mean? So this is my first thing, no such thing as a white belt, right? If you've got something you want to do, something you want to achieve, something that inspires you, that you're passionate about, run with it, yeah? Don't let anyone tell you no. So that's what I had. I had officers sat in front of me saying, yeah, but we need to move something out of the training program to fit that in. Come on, Sergeant Sheriff, tell me, when was the last time that you used hand-to-hand combat in a real operational situation? And the answer is actually quite a lot, because people think of unarmed combat as throwing people and, doing all Bruce Lee stuff. But actually, just putting your hands on somebody can turn into an unarmed combat situation, yeah? Because you need to know how to hold and control someone in such a manner. If you get put on your floor, you need to know how to get up, back to your feet. All you guys, you all know this, but someone sat behind a desk that doesn't have any of this knowledge, they don't know that. So we were able to beat the naysayers, yeah? And eventually we got Royal Marine Jiu-Jitsu in as a Royal Marine sport. That meant that every single Royal Marine could learn Jiu-Jitsu. in a commando unit. They could go and travel, represent the Royal Marines all around the world in international competitions, get on-duty status. A real big deal. It meant that it would get the same recognition as football, boxing, rugby. And it ended up that actually jiu-jitsu was the biggest sport in the Royal Marines because we had the most people training it, every single commando. So for me, that was box ticked. That was going. If anything happened to me, Royal Marines Jiu-Jitsu would carry on, all right? I was able then to switch fire to another passion of mine, which is helping people, but through the art of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so as a PTI, we're able to do exercise rehab. So if someone gets injured, we go from diagnosis to getting back to full operational effectiveness, yeah, through a program and all the rest of it. So liked helping people, loved jiu-jitsu. Let's put the two together. So I knew how good I felt when I was doing jiu-jitsu. Does everyone here feel good when they train jiu-jitsu? Yeah. But then also afterwards, feel great afterwards, don't we? Yeah. And generally, it's quite social, isn't it? You'll finish jiu-jitsu, you might go and have coffee together, have something to eat together. Awesome. Thank you. And it's a social activity. Yeah. So there's a lot of people in the military that I was seeing and struggling a little bit with certain things, so we're bringing them in, but then especially the veterans who were leaving the military. So they've gone from a situation where they were surrounded by like-minded people, yeah, people who they lived together, slept together, ate together, fought together, trained together. All of a sudden, they're now out, yeah. They might be living in a flat or a house on the road. Might have a family, a loving family, but they've not got that unity and that connection that they once had. And it's like, how can we bring them out of isolation? And jiu-jitsu is that, yeah? So if you think about it, think of the parallels. Military, you've got a routine. You're doing a form of training which is robust. It's keeping you active psychologically, physically, but there's progression, there's purpose. You come in, you put a white belt on, but what's the next thing? It's a stripe on your belt, 2 stripes. Next belt, blue belt. You've got an instructor, you've got coaches. Very similar to the military. See what I mean? The crossovers there. And at that time, I'd become good friends with a guy over in America, Alan Shibaro, who started We Defy Foundation. We hooked up, and he very kindly offered for me to run We Defy UK, which is a huge honour. So it was his baby. But I said it's very important that we have our own identity here. And we are allies, America and UK, but we're not the same, we're different. And that's where I sort of said, look, we need something different here. And he said, one bit of advice, get the name right, get the logo right. So initially I was thinking like switch or reversal, for bad to good, which you all get that, don't you? You get what switch is, you get what reversal is, but you do jiu-jitsu, and I'm trying to appeal to people who don't do jiu-jitsu. So it had to be like a military kind of terminology. So then I was thinking different sort of things, and I came up with reorg. And for those that don't know what a reorg is, so in the military, when we sort of fight through a position and we clear an objective, we shout the word reorg. And then everyone within that team, that section, we come together and we go into all-round defence and check each other off, make sure everyone's okay. And no matter what's just happened, bad or good, we move forward with a positive mindset. And that's what reorg is, yeah? No matter what's happened in the past, bad or good, we come together on the mats through jiu-jitsu. And we move together as a team, no matter what, with a good, positive mindset. So this just rocketed, and the support from like the jiu-jitsu community, Hodja Gracie, Brawley Steamer, all the big UK guys. Then that pushed out globally. We got good support from other people that I trained with around the world. And this was going like really fast, like an out of control trip, and then we have like tatami fightwear on board, and they were doing the kit for us, and then we had other things on board. And we're just starting to help a lot of people, through this. And to the point where we're like, we can't just keep this to like the military. You know, the emergency services need this too. So we opened it up to the police, the fire, paramedics, yeah, and then all our allied forces, America, Canada, they were sort of getting behind it as well. Just started growing, and the intention was always to kind of just operate under the Royal Marine Charity umbrella as a little group, but we outgrew that, and then we became our own charity, registered charity last year. Got a website and just all that like adult stuff. Do you know what I mean? So when something's real and proper, and yeah, it's just sort of grown from there really. I'm not in the military anymore, so I retired after 22 years, and I run Rio full time now. It was quite challenging through the pandemic, but what we learned through the pandemic was that even when you can't get on the mats together, you can still get on the phone, you can message each other, you can phone each other, you can check that everyone's good, and you still live that jiu-jitsu lifestyle. So we eat well, we make sure we live well, we keep up with our fits, we run, we do circuits, we swim, and even if you just get together and go out paddleboarding, walking the dogs, all that kind of stuff, you're doing something together which makes you feel good. And as a result, you feel good. Yeah. So that's essentially the story and the reality. So let's go back one. So that's the story. And a lot of people support through the kit that we wear. And that gives them sort of like a new uniform. So for those who are not in the military anymore, not in the emergency service anymore, it's something that they can wear together. They represent something, they can support something. If their loved one, was in the military or emergency services, they can chuck on a hoodie or a cap, that kind of stuff. And that directly supports the mission of what we're doing, helping our community. Yeah. But the reality, the harsh reality, is that we are changing and saving lives. So we are getting messages from people or from loved ones of people who found jiu-jitsu through Rio and their life is different. I've had messages from people saying, I now enjoy living again. And that is just so powerful, to think that someone was in that place and they're now in a completely new, exciting place with purpose and drive. And that's all through this, all through what you guys do. Yeah, jiu-jitsu. All right. So that's sort of us up to date, up to where we are.
How long did that process take then, mate? From it being an idea then, like a kind of, a little kind of seed in your brain, this could be something good for people. How long has that taken you?
I'd probably say from start to where we are now, probably about 4 years.
Right.
Yeah. But obviously I was still serving back then. And it was just something that I was doing whilst I was still serving in the military, which was quite challenging, because you'll know how busy it is in the military. So to do that as well. So we had the Royal Marine Jiu-Jitsu bubbling away, we had my career bubbling away, we had Rio bubbling away, do you know what I mean? And my dad, my husband. So it's like spinning lots of plates, you know what I mean? And sometimes that's difficult, But we did it, got across the line and things are just constantly like evolving and progressing and I think it's just because everyone sees the good in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So one of the things that we're kind of pushing a little bit more is the lifestyle, So, it's not just about being on the mat, it's what happens off the mat as well,
Yeah, we're quite big on that in terms of culture, community, and making sure that we've got that kind of thing after training as well. So you guys know I've spoke before about perhaps worth touching on our relationship in terms of obviously both Royal Marines, but Reorg as a charity are supporting the Atlantic Grappler charity campaign for my Ocean Row next year. So massively grateful to Sam for that. Bye, Lena. And in turn, we're doing things like this to support Reorg. So we've got full glass jar. Thank you for your donations. Everyone's wearing rash guards. Gracie Barha don't allow you to wear anything other than the uniform. Yeah, I just fucking tore that rule right up. They said we can wear Reorg rash guards and no gi kit in the academy. So we're building a gym in the back room. You'll see the building where that's ongoing. Things like the rig's going to be made by Beaverfit. I've just signed off on design. The kickback to reorg is 20%. So that rig's going to cost probably somewhere around about the 10 grand mark. And that's going to kick back 2 grand direct to reorg. And then anyone who pays for that increased membership cost to be able to use the gym and the sauna, a percentage of that membership will go back to the reorg financial. So we've got this kind of circular support thing. And that's the power of it, I think, that everyone comes round. And it might be that, as Sam's done, he's kind of touched the lives of people with jiu-jitsu. It might be that you guys meet someone who's struggling, and you might bring them down to the academy and introduce them to jiu-jitsu and a community of 270 odd members who are all positive and all like-minded. Yeah, and then you've got our family, and then you've got a bigger family, you know, and that's what this is all about tonight. It's about bringing, for me anyway, the two together and just sharing kind of some stories and some stuff. Any of you guys got any questions for Sam? I mean, it's a pretty impressive story, right? I mean, to start a charity of that size, to have a military career of that length is amazing. Start a charity as well.
How many lives do you think Rio has touched?
The honest answer is I don't know. I really don't know. And it's funny you say that because within our organisation, we've got statisticians, do you know what I mean? They want the data, they want the stats and all that kind of stuff. And I've said to them, I'd love to be able to present that to you. But I really don't know, because obviously for all those that get in touch and let us know, how many don't, do you know what I mean? So we've got a fairly healthy presence like on social media, sort of within kind of the Rio group, but then our support network as well is pretty strong. So when they post something out, how many people is that touching? Do you know what I mean? And it's got to be thousands, if I'm honest. Which is kind of bittersweet because it's good that it's happening, but it's sad that we need to help. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's not just about military and emergency services. It's not just about going through tough things. It's just life is tough. Do you know what I mean? Life is hard. If you just look at your daily routine and sort of, it doesn't matter where you are on that scale of having a tough time, whether it's just you feel rubbish all the way through to you don't enjoy living anymore. That's the worst. That's right at the other end of the scale. It doesn't matter where you are on that scale. It's about doing something about it. It's about recognizing that you're having a tough time and understanding why you're having a tough time, whether that's work, financial, relationship, your sort of home life, external stresses, whether it's a traumatic experience you've sort of been involved in, maybe when you were younger or recently or whatever it is, it's trying to pinpoint what that is and doing something about it. Understanding that the way you're feeling, you can do something about it. Do you know what I mean? Knowing that it's okay to not feel good because you've got a way to manage that. And whether that's smashing face, whether it's getting together with your friends, whether it's jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, it's knowing what that is. Does that make sense? But it was great what you touched on there. It shows how in sync we are. It was almost like I thought it and you said it. So what you were saying about your students speaking to people about reorg, I was thinking that then, you know, because the funding is amazing because it means we can do what we can do. But probably more important than that is the education. So it's, you know, wearing a hoodie and a t-shirt and stuff like that. It's about sparking off that conversation. So maybe someone sees that, reorg, what's that? And you're like, well, actually, it's da-da-da-da. Have you thought of trying jiu-jitsu? Have you thought of this? So actually then you guys start to have an impact. You guys start to be able to do something that is going to actually change someone's life. See what I mean? So it's like, it's something which is spreading out, but for a good thing. And I think that's why everyone's supporting it, because there's nothing really bad about this. It's about people helping people. And Rio would not be where it is if it wasn't for you guys supporting it and getting behind it and driving it.
I'm not sure you'll ever be able to quantify how many people it touches, but I mean, look, let's face it, only to touch one. Only to save one life is probably worth it, right? You know, your life's work and the legacy Sam's created, it saves one life to be worth it. What are some of the practical things that Rio does then to support mates? So, where does we buy a rash guard or a hoodie? It's great to share it. That money goes somewhere.
Absolutely. So we physically support individuals. So it could be a combat veteran, it could be a police officer, fire, paramedic, and we actually support their training. So they could walk in the door here, they have their trial session, see if they enjoy it, and we can support that. We can fund their mat fees. And for a lot of them, they don't need that. They don't need the financial support. What they need taken from that place into this place. Yeah. And we're the facilitators of that. So, because you guys might have forgotten what it's like to walk into a fight school. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people think that's what it is. Say to some people, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Well, cage fighting. It's like, no, it's not cage fighting. It's grappling, it's Jiu-Jitsu. You know what I mean? But some people think it's fight school or fight club or something. So to some people, it's like intimidating. It's like, don't know about going in there. But for a happy, smiley face, do you know what I mean? Welcoming them in, come on. So that's what we do. We break down the barriers, we break down the walls, let them know it's okay to come train. Do you know what I mean? It's probably the most welcoming environment you're ever going to go into. But they're also going to teach you to choke someone out and snap someone's arm and everything else like that. But that's the other end. And it's weird, isn't it? Because it's like, that's that end of it. Because you don't really talk about that. You just like, just tap. Oh, yeah, okay, cool, yeah. But it's like, well, if you don't tap? You go, we don't need to know about that. Just tap.
So Sam, when we spoke about our charity of choice, so Greater Barrow Ladies Charity of Choice being reorg, that's what Sam had said to me. I wanted you to hear it from him. So basically, if anyone comes through our doors as someone who's been referred to by reorg, Sam just said to me, just let me know how much it costs for them to train, for the uniform, just whatever. And then reorg would fund that kind of person through. That's massive, isn't it? Someone who's come out of the military, maybe got some PTSD issues or any blue light services, living in a flat in Mainwood on the road, living on a flat in Mainwood on the road, to find this place and then be able to be funded to be able to do it, to get them on their feet, such a powerful thing and such a practical. That's what I love about it. It's so practical. The difference is going to make straight away. It's huge.
So I think as well, a lot of the time people put excuses in the way. If they're unsure about doing something, they put an excuse there. It's like, Jiu-Jitsu, I'm not too sure. I mean, I don't really know where to train it. Well, there you go, Gracie Barha around here, Leeds. That's the address. This is the professor. That's his phone number. And if you give me yours, then he can message you. Okay. But I don't know when I'm going to be able. Well, that's fine. Just let us know your availability. We can work around you. Okay. Yeah, financially, things are a bit tight at the minute. I've got kids and, this. Well, that's fine. We can just take that pressure away. I better come and train then. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, we're just taking away those kind of, those pressures, Did
you have a question there, Matt?
Yeah. How do you find people to help? For example, say a police officer or ex-army veteran. If they're going through a tough time, would you, with like the Samaritans, pass them over to you, or do you have a hotline that they would call when they're down?
No, we don't really have a hotline as such. We've obviously got the website address where people can email directly and people can message us on social media. But we work in partnership with other charities because we're not saying Jiu-Jitsu is the answer. We're not saying Jiu-Jitsu...
It is. We all know it is.
We work in partnership. Do you see what I mean? So for someone who was at this end of the scale that we're talking about, as well as Jiu-Jitsu, we would get them to speak to a professional, because that's so important. Really, really is. And it almost to destigmatize that process of speaking to someone, And so there's a charity called Rock to Recovery. Okay, and they're fantastic and really, really fantastic work speaking to people who are having a really tough time. So the two together is a perfect combination. Sorry, mate, you have a question?
Sure. I think it's no secret where people who serve do have problems after, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And this is much for yourself, Professor Mark. When you're in need, when you're alongside your family brothers, is there like, can you see people not making it afterwards? Is that a conversation to have, like, he's going to struggle when he finishes? Or is it, does that conversation go on? And
in my experience, it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a
good
guy.
Question, by the way.
Guy I served with in Afghanistan. Went to Afghanistan again afterwards. Bish, you remember Bish? He's a troop corporal. Lost both his legs. He put a post out the other day. Another guy that we served with in this company took his own life last week. I don't think we saw much of it. I think the reason we didn't see much of it is because, one, you're a bit gung-ho and you're with your mates, it's all right. And no one wants to show weakness in front of their friends. They say when you go to war, whatever, I mean, I don't know what you tell us, mate, but I went to Afghanistan, went to Iraq, went to Ireland, and they say, and it's true, you're not brave when you go to war. You go because you don't want to let your mate down. That's the only reason you go. Because when they're chucking you out the Chinook, and it's the most mined country in the world, and it's 6 foot high off the floor, and you can see all the mines, and they're kicking you off, the load is kicking you off because you're taking it around, which is what we experience. There's no bravery there. You're just getting off because the bloke behind you needs to get off. So I didn't see any of that. I heard about it later on. There's another guy we served with called Ed Burke, and Steve Chalmers as well, who was my corporal in Afghanistan. He went to Iraq a year later, but he was down in Basra when we were out in the Western Desert, and he was in trenches with Iraqis, scrapping it out, and it fundamentally changed him. So we could see significant mental health change. You could see that because these guys are now walking around our both naked, doing crazy stuff, just out there, wild, breaking down, crying in the pub, that kind of stuff. So you could see it overtly, but a lot of it, I think, is under the surface, and it's just bubbling underneath. And certainly when I served in the early 2000s, blokes didn't talk about that. It might be different now, but they didn't. I don't know if that's changed.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree, because you're in an environment where you don't want to, you're in an environment which is completely different to any other environment. It's where you've got to run the fastest, you've got to do the most press-ups, you've got to do the most pull-ups. And if you don't, you're a bit of a knobber. Do you know what I mean? So you don't want to be last on the run and all this kind of. But I think there's been a bit of a shift. Do you know what I mean? And I think now it's about helping people, and it's about identifying problems, it's about understanding why you're not where you are on the run, or not doing that many press-ups, and then being like, right, well, actually, if you do this training, you'll get fitter, you'll get stronger. See what I mean? So I think we've just become a bit more educated over the last few years, thankfully, and I think that's a good thing. And I think generally, letting people know that it's not a weakness, because your mind is no different to your body, right? And you need to let your mind recover. You need to treat your mind the same way as your body. So, you guys all train. If you did a marathon every day and didn't stretch, didn't ice, didn't recover, didn't let your muscles recover, what's going to happen? You're going to get injured, aren't you? And I think it's the same thing. If you're doing something with your mind, which is constantly active, and you're not giving it the opportunity to just recover. And that's why it's not just the military. It's fire officers, police officers, paramedics. We could go on. We could go on to all other sectors, but anyone who's going through something traumatic, we need to deal with that. We need to find a way to help them.
So bring that back to Jitz. And I said this in the warm-up yesterday. When we're warming up, for me, you guys, I want you to come in here, and when you're starting that warm-up, you can't check your phone for an hour. And I said to you yesterday, I've got you for an hour. I've got you on these mats for an hour. Your family can't bother you. Your boss can't bother you. Your bills can't touch you. Your phone ain't going to ring. You've got a chance for an hour just to be you, with people who are supporting you, who care for you, And I think that's where jiu-jitsu, for me, Hoyner Gracie used to say, like it's like being plugged back into the wall. When you finish jiu-jitsu and you're walking out and then your phone goes beep and you go, oh shit, yeah, I've got to check my phone. For an hour, you've not had that. Remember that. This is part of the overall health that Sam talks about, coming into a place like this. And also those martial arts characteristics that we're trying to develop in everyone. You heard me say before, I've said to Professor Victor on the podcast, we're developing you as people, just using the tool of jiu-jitsu. That's it. So you become more confident, more resilient, more respectful, more disciplined, healthy, body and mind. It's such a powerful thing. And a lot of you guys, some of you guys do need help. And I've spoken to you about it and you know that. And we keep it between us. That's fine. Some of you don't. Some of the people at Sam's charity is helping obviously really, really do need it.
So I've got one more story for you before we actually do some jiu-jitsu, all right? And that's about someone that I came across, probably similar to what you guys may do in the future. So I was out in my local town, Newton Abbot, with my boys, and I saw a lad sat on a low wall, head in his hands. He had like a vest top on, shorts, quite unkept. But I'd noticed a globe and laurel, which is like the Royal Marine logo, tattooed on his arm. And I was like, I just sort of went over and said, "You bootneck?" Yeah, I am. And he stood up. I was like, "Mate, I'm bootneck." I was like, "What's your story? What are you doing here?" And he's like, I just moved down from up north. Yeah, I was in, and I won't mind telling you, I ended up in Hazelcourt and I had snags and that. I'm a bit of a tough time, if I'm honest. And I was like, right. I said, well, have you ever thought of doing martial arts? And his whole body language just like changed. And he was like, ah. And he just kind of like stood up a bit, stuck his chest out a bit, and was like, yeah, I have. Yeah. And I said, mate, right, give me your details now. Give me your phone number, everything. I said, just leave it with me. I said, I don't know if you know, but there's a charity called Real. I said, and that's what we do. We help people who are struggling by introducing them to martial arts. So within 20 minutes, I got him a scholarship at a local jiu-jitsu academy in Newton Abbot, and rung him up. I'm like, mate, got you sorted, trial session. He's like, oh, awesome. Yeah, brilliant, thanks. He was quite sort of anxious and quite quiet. And I said, right, it's this time. He's like, right, okay, thanks. And the Stuart, the lad who I organised it with, he's brown belt. And I was like, mate, how did he get on? He said, he didn't turn up. I'm like, right, okay. So I rung him up. I'm like, mate, how's it going? He's like, yeah. I said, how did your trial session go? Yeah, it was just a lot on, and this, that, and the other. I said, all right. I said, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, I don't know yet. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll come with you. He's like, yeah, all right, yeah. And he says, I ain't got a car. I said, I'll pick you up, it's all right. So pick him up, take him this session. He had his first trial session and he just absolutely loved it, right? So let's fast forward now 6 months. There's a picture of him with his hand getting raised on the mat. And I spoke to him afterwards and he said the reason that he felt so elated was not because his hand was in the air because he won. It was because he knew he was going to be okay. And this is a guy who had actually attempted to take his own life. So prior to me meeting him, he'd actually attempted to take his own life. And thankfully, he did do a very good job. And they sort of got him back. And he's still sort of have problems, damage that he caused himself. But he's a completely different guy. He's motivated, he's keen, he's constantly cracking fizz. He's well on his way to his blue belt. He's knocking on the door to a blue belt, and he's just so fired up, you know what I mean, and loving life and wanting to help other people as well, So that's essentially where you guys come in and, just keep an eye out for people, and by just wearing the tee, wearing the hoodie, wearing the cap, it can spark a conversation. Yeah. So, should we warm up?
Let's do it, man. Any further questions? Any last questions for Sam? You won't get to probably speak to him again for a long time.
Yeah.
Coach.
That's it. Is there anything you felt that you learned about yourself or about human nature that you learned on the mats that you feel like you wouldn't have otherwise learned throughout your military career?
It's a really good question. There's a lot, which is why I'm thinking. I think one of the big things is humility, and learning that to progress, you need to let go of ego. Yeah. So what aided me in my military career, that kind of arrogance, that elitism, that kind of always striving to be the fittest and the strongest and this and that, and, you know, legacy of Royal Marine Commando and all that, doesn't do you any good on here. Because on here, it's about knowledge, experience, dedication. And you can't get that by trying harder. You only get that through time served, showing up. Yeah. So that sort of slowed my progression of jiu-jitsu down, because I was under the impression that if I was on top, if I was dominating, I was winning. Do you know what I mean? In my kind of young, immature mind. What I didn't realize was that I wasn't learning technique. I wasn't developing my technique. And it wasn't until years later I had a bit of a light bulb moment. And actually, in some sessions, just go and see how many times you can get tapped out. Just go on the mat, like, yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, I'm back. Yeah. Jump. Yeah. Pop, pop. Right. Start on back. Yeah. Dude, I'll just tap my back. What? Just tap my back. Get the hooks in. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Chuck. Okay. Yeah. Right. Starting. Yeah. On top. What? Yeah. Down top. Go. Yeah. We're starting from there. Starting escaping. The sooner you can get that, I promise you, you will progress so much quicker. Yeah. Because you dominate someone in here. You know, you're the big fish in here. You're tapping people out. You're choking people out. Great. That's brilliant. Now go train at Atos in San Diego. Yeah. Let's see what happens then. When that little 40 kilo guy is just round your legs, upside down. Whoa, what's going on here? My top pressure, side control, Kimura isn't working anymore. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the sooner that you can kind of just let that go. And it's hard. I know it's hard, because I've been there, I've been in that position, you know, where you kind of constantly wanting to win and all the rest of it. And I remember like seeing guys and girls getting stripes and all the rest of it. And I'm like, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? I'm better than him. I'm better. You know what I mean? And then you realise, but it's not till later. And you've wasted all that time. Do you know what I mean? So, long way to answer a very short question.
Right.
Hope that helped.
What would be the first time you've heard that?
Kind of follow on from Coach G's question and kind of firing at both of these. You say that everybody has doubts along the journey. Either of you at any point had a serious doubt where your journey was about jiu-jitsu progression?
Yes, absolutely. And it was probably around that sort of time that I was just talking about there. So, you know, kind of senior white belt into senior blue belt territory. Do you know what I mean? I've been traveling around, trained at lots of different academies, competed, gold medals. And I just was like, I don't get it. Like, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I have purple belt. You know what I mean? And it's, you doubt yourself, you question yourself, like, kind of, I don't feel like I'm progressing or this, or maybe you have a tough day at an academy, you go and you just get run through, you know what I mean? And you're like, ugh. Or you go to a competition and you've been training for it and you get triangled, you get armbarred, whatever, and you're like, oh man, I've just drove all the way to Birmingham on my own. First fight, armbarred, and now I'm limping back to Devon with one arm, you know. And it's stuff like that. And it's not till you learn that right, dissect that. Why did you lose? Why did you get armbarred? Why did you get triangled? Why didn't that work? That's where you grow. That's where you flourish. That's where you develop. When you, rather than blaming everyone else, look at yourself. Right, why did I lose? Why am I not getting promoted? It's no one else's fault. It's not your professor's fault because he doesn't like you. It's not that he doesn't like you, it's that you're not ready. Does that make sense? But why are you not ready? Let's find out. Let's look at myself. Let's look at myself and find out, how can I change this? Not everyone else's fault. How can I change it?
Same. And you will all experience those doubts as well. But one thing I never doubted was that I'd be a black belt one day, because I always knew I was never going to quit. Like, I just knew that. That's just what I'm like. You guys are all like that. You just need to allow yourself. And you talk about giving yourself permission to perform.
Yeah.
You need to give you permission to believe in yourself a little bit more and say, I will be a black belt one day. I'm not putting a time frame on it. Don't need to be within 8 years like Professor Mike, or 10 years, or 5 years, or 20 years. One day you will be a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And what this does not signify is immense technique. It's time served. Because if I go wrong with Professor Victor, it makes me look like a day one white belt every single time. Every time. Well, it doesn't matter. He gave me this because he knew I'd put the time in. And I'd put the dedication in over 8 years, constant training. Wherever I was in the world, I was taking my gear and I was training, I was working out. So when we did the Q&As in lockdown, and some of you guys in this room, but a lot of members, I said, what's your goal in jiu-jitsu? And he was like, I want to be a blue belt. It's a shit goal. It's the worst goal ever. Because what happens when you get your blue belt and you get tapped by a first strike white belt tomorrow? You're not a blue belt anymore? People come, I want to give you this back, Professor. I don't deserve it. Fuck off. You're having it. The pressure's on. Accept it. Lose. Have some humility. Give yourself permission to have a longer term goal, some delayed gratification, 10 years, 20 years. By the time I'm 60, before I die, I'll have a black belt in jiu-jitsu. When you've got it, man,
yeah, no
one can take it away. It's like a green beret. Like, once you've got it, it's in the drawer, no one can take it away, man. It's worth the wait. Yeah. Worth the wait. Because there's more people now got these. There's not many people still, in the grand scheme of things, that are prepared to wait that long and to suffer for that long to be rewarded. So, honestly, you all should be black belts under me. You all will be black belts under me. All you got to do is keep coming. It's not difficult. Just keep coming.
That's really great what you just said there. You just sort of touched on it, that kind of just finding jiu-jitsu. Wherever you go, find somewhere to train jiu-jitsu. And that's kind of what we do with Reorg, giving people the opportunity through our network, through our Reorg network. You know, you might go Cyprus, where can I train? Get in touch with Reorg. Yeah, go check these guys out. Go check these guys out. So you go in and training. I went to Poland, to Warsaw.
I've had training in Warsaw, yeah.
And I went there and straight away. I'm Googling, where can I train? It wasn't a Gracie Barra place. It was a place called Copacabana, right? And I looked on Google Maps where it was. It looked like it was in like a junkyard. I was like, what? And so I left my hotel and I got my running kit on and I just went running to try and find this place, right? And it was like real like Eastern Bloc high-rise flats. And I'm thinking, why shouldn't we be running around here? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And anyway, the urge for jiu-jitsu was too much. And I had to find this place, right? And I got to this place and it was a junkyard, it was a scrapyard, right? And I'm like, this can't be right. And inside I just saw this blue door, right, same colour as this, with these like two guys, like the manto sort of sign, Copacabana across it in white. And I went and, you know, like the old garage doors, you got two big doors and you got a little one sort of like cut out. And I like knocked on it, right? And I went inside and it was just like, it was like going into like the TARDIS or like, you know, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or somewhere. It's like, went in, it was all white, like white mats, white, it was massive. All these people like training jiu-jitsu, right? And there's these three big guys behind this desk and they're like sat back in these chairs and got gis on, no belts, just like sat back, chilling out. And I was like, hi guys, I just wanted some information on jiu-jitsu. Yes. Can I train? Yes. Okay. I haven't got a gi. I'm just sort of running. He's like, just chuck me a gi. All right. He went, belt? I was like, yes, please. Colour? Blue? Chuck me a blue belt. And I'm like, okay. When what time's your lessons? When you train? No. I was like, this is a thing. So got my gi on, got my belt on, and got on the mat, and he did this warm up, right? And sort of inside, I'm like, is this because I'm new? Do you know what I mean? Or do they always do this? And it was like this horrendous, like, warm up.
Yeah.
Did like 200 burpees. Do you know what I mean? And then and they're all doing it together, right? Like clapping, and then he was like, and then next one 200. And I'm like, oh my god, what is this? And then we're like straight to drills, and then like rolling with each other, and it was like competition class. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of it, so the first thing was like, I did all right. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, so you can go to another country, somewhere else in the world, like speak a different language and everything else like that. But your jiu-jitsu crosses over. You know, it's like you don't need to speak the same language almost. You get the language of jiu-jitsu, you know? And then at the end, you know, the black belt who was running the academy, it was like, good, you come back. And it was like the pat on the back, do you know what I mean? It was like, well done. You know, you've come into my home and you've done all right. You know what I mean? And I do that everywhere I go. You know, I try and find somewhere because you leave just like a little piece. It's like everyone you train with leaves an imprint of their jiu-jitsu on you. And you take the good, you leave the bad, and then you advance that. You give that to other people. Even now, like, as a black belt, I'm teaching things, you know, that I've learned from other countries, you know, from other instructors, and I've used it in competition and stuff like that. It's awesome, isn't it?
And the levels of the belts across the world, apart from, in my experience, like Marcelo Garcia's academy in New York, stuff like Atov, those very high level competitive academies, that's a slightly different level because those guys are competing at world level all the time. But your normal academies like ours, you can go to anywhere in the world and you will hang with white belts or hang with the blue belt. In Marseille, where you went, Bondi, wherever, they're the same. You know what I mean? Never question whether or not you'll be able to hang with them. They're going to give you a good role because you've walked into their academy, as I would expect you to give someone a good role. They walked into ours. Yeah, it's like, oh, welcome. Let's have some. And you're going to get that. But you'll be able to handle it. No worries. And there's so much power in the knowledge, just much like a seminar like tonight. I guarantee some stuff that Sam teaches you will remember forever. Some stuff that Professor Victor taught you, you'll remember forever. You won't remember the shit I teach you on the way tonight, but you'll remember what these guys say. And when you go to a different academy or a competition, that imprint's deeper, stays with you, and you take those little bits and it becomes your jiu-jitsu. And everyone's jiu-jitsu is unique. Sam's is, mine is, yours is, yours is, yours is, yours is, yours is. It's all your own. And that's magic too. Like, no one's got the same journey. You know what I mean? Some people train 5 times a week. Some people train twice a week. Some people train with these type of people. You're all unique. It's pretty magic, man. But we're all put together. Awesome. Ready to do some stuff?
Yeah.
Any final questions before we move?
Just one question. You said there that I think that you met in your own time, you found in a club.
Yeah.
Have you now got your own school, and if not, can it potentially be an option in the future? Because obviously 95% of free time for it down in the southwest now.
Yeah. So we've got our Rio Southwest HQ, which is down in Plymouth. But I don't teach there full time just because I'm so busy with Rio and I'm like all over the place. Can't commit to one academy because I think that'd be unfair to do that because you all come here for Professor Mike. Do you know what I mean? So then if he's not here, you're like, oh, what's going on? Do you know what I mean? I know you've got other wonderful coaches, but I just think for me personally, like I'm so busy with Rio to commit to one academy. I'm not able to do that, you know. But what is great is I'm able to do things like this. You know, I'm able to go to lots of different places. Well, now the restrictions are lifted. You're my first. You're my first sort of one after the restrictions. So it's great to be here.
We're very grateful, man. Very grateful.
Recent event on the beach.
Yeah, pretty much. So a good friend of mine who I was at 4-2 Commando with, he went off SBS, and then as he was starting to leave, he came up with that as a business idea. So for those that don't know, it's a big gym on the beach in Bournemouth, very much like a sort of thing you'd see in LA or like Bondi Beach or something like that. It's really cool. So I just went down and spent some time with him and just said, look, how can I help? How can I help you kind of continue doing what you're doing and maybe get a little bit of spotlight on and stuff like that? And I just suggested me taking a Royal Marine sort of PT session on the beach, and he loved the idea, and we sort of ran with that. And 6 days later, from sort of idea, 6 days later, we had 51 people on the beach. It was at capacity. You know, we had one guy that just drove down from Plymouth, so I wanted to turn him away. So yeah, we had 51 people on the beach doing like Royal Marine type session. So it was only ever going to be one, but it was so good and so many people enjoyed it. We said we'd do one more for this year, which is summer. One more for this summer 2021. That's 19th of September. So if any of you fancy drive to Bournemouth to take part in that, that'll be the last one for this year. And it's obviously all in support of Rio. Yeah.
Awesome. It's not going to be a Royal Marines bid session.
No, it's not.
See a few people looking like that. You've got to go at 7.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do some jiu-jitsu then, yeah? All right, guys. Thanks, Sam.